Welcome to Paris. Welcome to COP21, the Global Climate Summit. 196 countries, 150 world leaders at the opening. For the president of the African Development Bank, a meeting with partners. Years of preparation have gone into gathering the pieces of this diplomatic puzzle. Now we have to put them together. The African Development Bank is a key player in the global debate. How does Africa fit into the picture?
Votre présence soulève un immense espoir que nous n'avons pas le droit de décevoir. Car ce sont des peuples et des milliards d'êtres humains qui ont le regard porté sur nous.
The growing threat of climate change could define the contours of this century more dramatically than any other. And what should give us hope that this is a turning point? That this is the moment we finally determined we would save our planet. Let's get to work. Thank you very much.
From day one, Africa is central to the discussions. But will a global agreement be reached at all? And will Africa's voice be heard? Akinwumi Adesina launches the action signal.
Let us act and save the Sahel. Let us act and save Lake Chad. Let us revive Africa's degraded lands. Let us light up and power Africa. Let us together put up the great green wall for Africa. Your Excellencies, let us make Africa green. The African Development Bank will triple its climate finance to $5 billion a year by 2020, by which time climate finance will account for 40% of the bank's portfolio.
At COP21, the voice of Africa is strong. The African Pavilion, one of the most impressive spaces at the conference, is shared by the Africa Development Bank, the African Union, NEPAD, and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. A space where Africa can talk about its own experience of climate change and its challenges in gaining access to energy.
I grew up in a very low-income household. I went to a village school. I walked kilometers to go and find water. I studied in school with lanterns and kerosene and candles. But that was a long time ago. But look at today, 55 years after. Many kids in Africa still go to school. They can have access to electricity. And that is why, in my job as president of the African Development Bank, development is not theory. Development is about people. Development is about fast-tracking the provision of education, of electricity, of water to people.
Akinwumi Adesina has made access to energy his top priority because it's the key to Africa's progress. Today, the whole of Africa produces only half as much energy as Japan. In late 2015, the African Development Bank launched the New Deal for energy in Africa.
640 million Africans do not have access to electricity, and this is not acceptable at all. That is why the African Development Bank has launched what we call the New Deal on Energy to fast-track the access to electricity to 2025 for Africa. Africa cannot have energy poverty. We have to industrialize. We have to create jobs.
We can light up and power Africa without worsening global warming. That's why another fresh impetus announced in Paris is the African Renewable Energy Initiative, a joint effort by the continent's main political and financial institutions to triple electricity production by 2030.
Africa has a lot of potential in different types of energy sources. Renewable energy, our sunshine, should not just be nourishing our crops. They must also power our homes. 75% of Africa's forests are being cut down today because people are simply looking for firewood to be able to cook. No, we have to light up and power Africa and save our forests.
Throughout the COP, climate finance has been central. It was discussed every day in panels organized by the African Development Bank. A key moment for the best specialists to network and debate climate funding. It was the right time to explain the African stakes to the international media.
For COP21, we must make sure that we get a deal that serves Africa's needs to have more financing for climate adaptation, because Africa has to adapt to climate change, but it needs a lot more resources, both domestically but also globally.
The multilateral development banks display unity on a common goal. The polluting countries must keep their promise of providing $100 billion annually in climate funding. COP21, a unique moment of international negotiation and cooperation, succeeds in crafting a historic agreement. For the African Development Bank, the next challenge is to help African countries translate this landmark agreement into a better future for all Africans.
Cet accord accélérera la mise à disposition de l'Afrique des moyens financiers et technologiques indispensables à son développement durable. Je regarde la salle, je vois que la réaction est positive, je n'entends pas d'objection. L'accord de Paris pour le climat est accepté.